It is midday in the Queen City. You know business is booming. We're talking caps, but not ball caps. And also writing some checks for the arts. Big Friday show coming up. Let's do lunch. Cincinnati is a city that means business. Fortune 500 company HQs, renowned institutions like Children's Hospital and the Cincinnati Zoo, and letters that everyone here knows: TQL, GE, CVG, UC, and X. It's also a city that's large enough for new ideas to take root and grow. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you're in business. I'm Jack Crumley, and this is The Working Lunch. Hello, welcome to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. Glad to have you on this Friday. This is our hour-long business show here on The Crown, where we bring you headlines about what companies and corporations are up to here in the city. Lots of expansion news and more. We bring you exclusive interviews with local leaders and business owners, and there are times when we try to squeeze in a bite to eat, maybe something to drink before you go back to face the afternoon. Thanks for watching on this Friday. Cincinnati business headlines. One of the things that I really enjoy is talking about how this city supports the arts. The Cincinnati Symphony is a world-class organization. We've got a vibrant theater scene here. People both shoot and go to the movies here. And there's a tremendous amount of support from corporate sponsors and nonprofits to make all that happen. One of the biggest in the nonprofit side of things, ArtsWave, has announced nearly $9 million in sustaining impact grants that are going to nearly 4 dozen local arts organizations. It's launching a new 3-year funding cycle for fiscal 2027 through fiscal 29. This is money that is coming from the big ArtsWave community campaign that's always mounted, and the Sustaining Impact grants specifically are its largest and most consistent form of support, with operational funding for multiple years for these organizations. Recipients this time around include the Cincinnati Art Museum, the Cincinnati Ballet, Cincinnati Landmark Productions, friends of the show, Playhouse in the Park, the Clifton Cultural Arts Center, the Contemporary Arts Center, along with other organizations like Price Hill Will, Young Professionals Choral Collective, and more. Groups doing work to expand culture and bring different culture to this area. That all has an impact on people who want to live and work here and maximize their time in this city. It is growth, even if you don't see a change in the bottom line of numbers right away. One other arts bit to mention to you. I had the pleasure, cool picture, of going to the Cincinnati Opera last night for the opening performance of Lalo Vavi. That is part of the launch of the groundbreaking initiative that the opera has going on called the Black Opera Project. It's a way to advance people of color and the stories that they want to tell in this very specific theatrical art form. Lalo Vavi is a really cool sci-fi kind of story. Still opera. They're singing everything that they're saying. It's about an Afro-future society that takes place hundreds of years from now. A young woman learns of her true nature and history as the world that she thought she knew falls apart around her. It was a big show last night with a big response from the audience. There is one more performance for it this coming Saturday. That still has limited pay-what-you-wish seating, and the tickets for that are available starting at midnight tonight, midnight tomorrow morning, and so about 12 hours from now, and going until 3 p.m. while tickets last. It's a last shot at seeing something really unique and cool here in this city. We've had news recently about Florida-based Publix opening multiple grocery stores in the northern Kentucky area, and now the Cincinnati Business Courier is reporting that Kroger wants to build a Kroger marketplace in a new spot on a vacant site that's been the subject of quite a bit of debate and development in Richwood. A little design element there. That will include a Kroger wine and spirit store that we told you yesterday has Kroger doing a big expansion of to hundreds of stores nationwide. That proposed construction site in Boone County in Richwood is just a quarter-mile away from the Triple Crown shopping center, where one of those new public stores opened just last year, one of the original volleys in this grocery store back and forth that we've been seeing. The Courier says that this Richwood site has been targeted for multiple development attempts over the years, going back to the early 1990s. With any luck, this one will stick. Cincinnati-based Fifth Third Bank has opened its first branch in Texas. This is the result of the merger between Fifth Third and Comerica Bank. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report on a bit of a civil war going on in this expanded and unified bank operation all over Chile. Cincinnati Fifth Third employees disagreeing with their Texas compatriots on what makes Chile good, or what makes good Chile. The paper says Chief Executive Tim Spence's first town hall in Houston had a moment where an employee asked if he prefers his chili with or without beans. Big deal in Texas. All this debate about beans and spaghetti and tomatoes. You know, I never hear anyone debating about how good any kind of chili is on a baked potato, right? It's really good. Shout out to baked potatoes on this Friday for just always being there. We appreciate you. That is a fun segue as we now get into today's Big Bites. All the recent talk about caps on Fort Washington Way and various voices, both currently in office and no longer in office, who are weighing in on whether or not money from the Southern Railroad Trust can be used for this massive project, got me wanting to recap where we're at when it comes to funding for the trust and the way that money has grown. We're going to start with the big picture here. In terms of year to date, the trust is up more than 3% and has been seeing returns well over the target of when the fund started a couple of years ago. You can see the way things have grown with a really nice spike there at the end. The asterisks at the bottom there are quarterly distributions when they were made, the city was allocated. Up at the top there, allocations to the city of Cincinnati. You can see how much money was given for fiscal year 2024, 25, and 26. That money is growing, it's being dispersed, and also that doesn't touch the principal. That is just supposed to be interest that is earned by this money from when Cincinnati sold the railroad. Also, amount invested and gaining interest, $1.9 billion. That is quite a bit of money. But the point of getting that money for the city by selling the railroad was to use some of that money to pay for infrastructure. And this is really key in the whole thing. The money has to be used for existing infrastructure. The way things are written, it can't be used to fill budget holes or for general operating expenses, and certainly new projects get a lot of scrutiny as well, leaning toward no. The Cincinnati Southern Railway Trust website does a really nice job of outlining exactly where things are, how we got here, and various responsibilities, along with all the different categories that the money is allowed to go to: transportation and engineering, parks and recreation, health, and then city facility renovation. Those are the four main categories, and then that bar chart below has you able to see where the money has gone in those various categories so far, and obviously transportation and engineering getting the vast majority of that. That website handles accountability and transparency by posting financial statements going back for years, along with the minutes of board meetings. This is a public institution that is accountable to the taxpayers. Even though positions on the board, which makes decisions on the money, are appointed positions, they are in charge of being stewards of this public money. There were questions just earlier this spring about how quickly things are getting done, especially when it comes to road paving, or if quickly isn't the right word, I maybe should say efficiently. Every year, the Railroad Trust Board votes to give a tranche of money to the city for various projects, but there's a whole process to getting things done from there, and I want to run you through it because I think it's important to understand. It starts with planning by the budget office and various city departments. Then it's the budget process itself, where Cincinnati City Council has to meet and agree to spend the money on a certain department thing. Then it goes into the design stage. planning what to do. Some departments can handle this in-house with the designing, but others just can't because of a lack of staffing or qualifications in a given department. Then things eventually go to hiring contractors and getting the materials needed, and then that's when construction can actually begin, or in the case of roads, simply paving. Yes, that is a really involved process, and yes, it's maybe not as efficient as how a business would do a given thing. That's because it's government. It's not business. An apple shouldn't taste like an orange. You may be holding an apple and you may want to taste orange, but if you bite into apple, it should taste like apple. The majority of the money being spent from the CSRT, as we showed you, is going to transportation and engineering, and much of that is paving roads. But what about building something over a road? That's been a much more recent subject of discussion. The proposal of putting caps over Fort Washington Way. Look at that, a little bit of magic to create green space and connect downtown to the riverfront is something that has had a number of former mayors making public declarations about, though not the one who's actually on the Railway Trust Board. Mentioned that yesterday. The rules of the trust are written into Ohio state law, using that money only on existing infrastructure involved former Green Township, Ohio State Rep Bill Seitz, the former Ohio House Majority Leader. He was in the Ohio Senate for a number of years. And that's where we pivot. He will be my guest next. We are going to take a break. We will talk with that former state lawmaker next and catch up on what he's doing professionally. You are watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. Got some stocks of local interest for you to check up on this Friday afternoon. Stick with us. We'll be back after this.
This city has always had something to prove. While the rest of the country talked about us, we built our own voice. Blue collar, underdogs, built differently, overlooked, talked about like we were supposed to stay quiet. But that was never who we were, because this city doesn't wait for permission. And neither do we. And now, for the first time, Cincinnati has a network built in its image, because the biggest stories in this city deserve more than highlights. This isn't cable television. This isn't national media. This is ours. This is The Crown.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with the first word. Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First word for your morning sports. The Working Lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
My name is Jack Crumley. I've been covering news in Cincinnati on the radio for the last 20 years. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, but Cincinnati has always felt like home since day one. I've seen so many things accomplished here, and now, with the Working Lunch, I get to write, read, and talk about them every day. Hard-working people with a drive and a dream. Innovative ideas that help shape this city. Cincinnati is a great city, and I'm excited to tell you about it every day.
My name is James Rapine, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining the Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, A History of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. We just did a big bite to recap what the legalese is and various responsibilities when it comes to the Cincinnati Southern Railway Trust Fund, a big amount of money that the city has banked now after the sale of the railroad that the city owned for decades. It was a golden goose that regularly returned amounts of money in the city as the city was leasing things to a railroad, but finally selling it recently meant that now the city has a large tranche of money that is specifically for existing infrastructure projects. Part of that involved state lawmakers weighing in on such a big sale. And in that vein, we go to former Green Township State Rep, the former Ohio House Majority Leader, currently working in commercial litigation as an attorney for Dinsmore, Green Township, Bill Seitz. Bill, hi, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
Great to be with you on this happy Friday, and I really appreciated your opening remarks because it summarized exactly how we expected this to work, and it's working just how we expected. It was very important that the state set guardrails around the city's use of this money. So the first thing we did is we commanded the Railroad Board to hire professional investment advisors to have a diversified portfolio.
That's right.
That would be, that's what anybody would advise. We were stupid to rely only on Norfolk Southern for lease payments, particularly after the Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine. Anybody will tell you you want to have a diversified portfolio to maximize your returns and don't put all your eggs in one basket. So that was rule one. Rule two, we recognized that there were lots of folks in the area that didn't trust the city of Cincinnati to spend this money wisely. And so we limited what the city of Cincinnati could get only to the dividends and interest annually payable on the invested $1.7 billion. That worked out perfectly. They were getting like $26 million a year in lease payments, and now they're getting, last I heard, $56 million or more per year. And so obviously that's a good deal. And we further said, this is a kicker, we further said if that principal, that $1.7 billion, if that ever dips below the $1.7 billion, even the dividends and interest otherwise payable to the city will be suspended until such time as the principal is back up to the original 1.7. So the objective is to always have that big $1.7 billion nut that we could rely on as a working, paying asset for city infrastructure. The other thing we recognized very much, Jack, was a lot of people were very nervous that the city would use this money for new things, particularly an extension of the streetcar, which, as you know, was a controversial project to begin with. And by restricting this to the repair or replacement of existing infrastructure, we shut the door on those kinds of projects. And unfortunately, although very logically, using the money to put a cap on Fort Washington Way is not a repair or replacement of existing infrastructure, however much it might benefit economic development, tying the downtown to the banks.
Well, so so that's actually what I wanted to, I mean, I don't know how much debate there's been on it. I know that a lot of people have been weighing in and saying what they feel. You know, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Fort Washington Way underwent a big $320 million reconstruction project. That was all to sort of set the stage for the progress that we have seen at the banks over the last 20 years. That was kind of what kicked all that off. And part of what these proposed decks and caps that would be over top of Fort Washington Way, part of the reason that that's as possible as it is now is because of that work that was done before. And I guess, you know, the question that I've got is, and I mentioned this yesterday on the show, how much of this is really considered to be new construction if we're talking about putting a deck over something? I mean, Fort Washington Way is existing infrastructure.
But the cap and the decks would not be existing infrastructure. I had this debate with the city just recently because one of my pet peeves is the ubiquitous nature of these speed humps that seem to be on damn near every single street in the city of Cincinnati. And I sought confirmation from the city engineer that they are not using railroad money to put in those speed humps, even though those speed humps are a cap on existing infrastructure of a very different kind. So we've heard from Mayor Pureval, we've heard from my good friend Charlie Lucan, and you're hearing it from me. None of us believe that the railroad money can be used for putting the caps on Fort Washington Way. Now, the state has been a wonderful partner with the city and the county on all of these projects. Smale Riverfront Park, Convention Center, the new hotel by Convention Center, the original Fort Washington Way project, the stadia downtown, the Paycor Stadium, the GABP. So the state has been a very good partner in terms of helping the city and its economic development work from over the Rhine all the way down to the banks. But we are drawing a line at the use of this railroad money for purposes other than the repair or replacement of existing infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Lord knows there's plenty of that needs to be done.
So in terms of then, because the whole reason this conversation has started is because the city of Cincinnati finally got a green light from Washington on this $25 million transportation grant that would go toward this project. The city had applied for it a number of times and got the thumbs down. Now we have been given the go-ahead on that grant specifically, but it is predicated on a matching amount locally. What are your thoughts on how that'll work? I know that people like Brendan Cull, who runs the Chamber of Commerce, and a lot of other local leaders, Mayor Pureval, all making public statements, rallying local leaders, rallying businesses with a lot of confidence that the cooperation can help get this thing done. Certainly a conversation with the state of Ohio would be involved in that. As a former state lawmaker, what is your take on the likelihood of coming up with that other $25 million to make this grant money worthwhile?
Well, I'm not in the legislature anymore, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that the state has always chipped in on these kinds of projects. And by the way, Jack, another one of my legislative successes was passing the state law that allowed the city to reduce its income tax in favor of a countywide sales tax to facilitate the metro bus system. And one of the things I insisted on by way of guardrails there was that at least 25% of that added sales tax money has to be spent on infrastructure, on roads and bridges over which buses travel. Well, the last time I looked, the buses travel over Fort Washington Way, so I would suggest that that would be a source of money that's already on the books. They're collecting, the 1% sales tax or increase, 1 cent sales tax increase is producing a lot of money. A lot of that money is being used. And the reason why I did that originally was to facilitate reconstruction of the Western Hills Viaduct. But it can be used on any infrastructure on which buses travel, roads or bridges. So there's another potential, and I haven't heard anybody mention this yet, but I don't know why that wouldn't be a good source to look to for at least some of the money to get this cap on Fort Washington Way project moving.
Yeah, that's certainly an option, and I have a feeling that variety is going to be the spice of life when it comes to getting the funding on this figured out. Hey, since I've got you, and I think we have a little bit of time still, one of in terms of big amounts of money involving the state of Ohio and various projects is something that happened in the legislature, I believe, after you were out of office, money that was worked into the state budget that is specifically going to the Browns in Northeast Ohio to move out of the city of Cleveland and build a new stadium in Brook Park, money that's coming out of the unclaimed funds account, of which the state is a steward of, but it's money that belongs to people. They just don't know that they don't have it. That has been challenged in court. As far as I know, the decision hasn't come down. What is your take on the idea of unclaimed funds that's set aside specifically for the Cleveland Browns, but I think just about every other team in the state has applied for a cut of that?
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the facts that there's $4.8 billion in the unclaimed funds fund in Ohio. Anyone who can show that they have funds in that fund is entitled to get it with interest, okay? Most of the money that is in the unclaimed funds fund is from people that have long since died, moved out of state, or are otherwise totally oblivious to the fact that they might have a small amount of money that is left unclaimed. And frankly, a lot of people don't apply for it because it's more hassle to apply for it than it is the amount of money that they're trying to get. So using a portion of that for these projects, I think, is a great idea. And by the way, as far as the court case is concerned, I think it's going to be very difficult for the plaintiffs who think this is unconstitutional to have standing to sue, because they're going to have to show that they have funds in the unclaimed funds fund that they are entitled to and that they're not getting. That showing cannot be made. Anyone who can show that they have funds due them is going to get their money with interest. So I think that whole case falls apart once it reaches the Supreme Court on the grounds of standing, which is a legal technicality, but a very important one. We want the cases to be brought only by folks who are genuinely aggrieved by what it is they're complaining about. I had a breakfast while I was still in office back in 2023, I think it was, or 24, with Matt Huffman, who was then the president of the Ohio Senate, a good friend of mine, and he and I talked about this very thing. We've got this huge amount of unclaimed funds. It's just sitting there. Why can't we use a portion of that for worthwhile projects and avoid the expense of paying interest on issued bonds, avoid a tax increase? All of those things we were able to do by using this small allocation out of the $4.8 billion unclaimed funds fund. And
all right.
While first beneficiary is the Browns, my understanding is that additional funds can and will be made available for other important projects, of which you can probably pencil in the Bengals and other teams like that. So it's not as if Cleveland's getting everything and we're getting nothing. Frankly, we weren't ready to put the plan together for Paycor at the time the Browns were ready to move on their new stadium.
There we go. All right. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your insight on that. Thanks for coming on the show. Former Ohio House Majority Leader, current litigation attorney for Dinsmore now, Bill Seitz. Thanks for your time.
Enjoyed it very much, Jack. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too. We are going to take another break. When we come back, a little bit of a pivot. Although we are already talking sports, we're going to talk a little bit more sports and the money that goes along with it. Very own Paul Fritchner going to be joining us after the break. More on that when we return. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown.
What is The Crown? It's simple, really. Authentic Cincinnati entertainment. Not hot takes from a studio 3 states away. Not national noise pretending to know this city. Rather, bringing a voice to those who call the Queen City home. Where can I watch The Crown shows? Join us live from 7 to 11 a.m. for First Word and 12 to 1 for The Working Lunch on RESN. No live TV? No problem. Stream and interact with all of our content on major podcast, broadcast, and streaming platforms. The Crown is Cincinnati. Loud, passionate, competitive, proud. From early morning sports debates to the business leaders shaping the riverfront, to the fans, stories, moments, and culture that make this place move. Live shows, podcasts, documentaries, digital content built from Cincinnati, for Cincinnati. This is The Crown.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones. Just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
My name is Jacob Tissett, and I'm a co-host of First Word from 7 to 11 every morning right here on the Crown Network, where we will break down the biggest stories in Cincinnati sports. I'm a graduate of the University of Alabama, where I spent 4 seasons working for the football team as a student assistant, contributing to the 2020 National Championship and 3 SEC championships. I'm a Cincinnati native, a St. Xavier High School graduate, and will bring a local perspective and passion to covering the Bengals, Reds, and everything in between. I'm excited to have you join us on First Word.
Hey, I'm Marissa Contapelli, one of the co-hosts on First Word and a features producer here on The Crown, where I will be out and about in Cincinnati bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. Now, I know I'm from Cleveland, but I love my Cincy sports. I've been in Cincinnati for almost a decade now, spending the last 8 seasons with the Bengals as a team reporter and senior producer. I am so excited to be a part of the team here at The Crown, and I can't wait to bring you the latest from around the city.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley, pivoting a little bit now from Cincinnati railroad money and leaning a little bit more into the business of sports. Here in the tri-state, we've had a couple big announcements break in just the last couple of days when it comes to sports, which, I don't know if you know this, is a big driver of this area's economy. Ooh, there we go. A little flavor right there. A little sports flavor video for you. That's from our friends over at brandcincy.com. We're going to be bringing you more on that in the next week, but that's to get you hyped for numbers. The bank's mixed-use development, which includes the Reds and the Bengals, has a $2.5 billion economic impact on this region. How they account for a big portion of that impact, at least according to a study from UC Economics from last June. I took the liberty of putting together a little chart based on info on that study. No, go ahead. We can we'll show it. That's the chart we're on now. Pro teams at the banks and what money they represent for the area. It's a big outsized amount when it comes to the banks. Reds make a ton, the Bengals make a ton, and then there are smaller amounts for things like the former GE building, the Freedom Center, and more. When it comes to college sports, though, That's a big financial engine anchored by the University of Cincinnati's move to the Big 12 back in 2023. UC Foundation Vice President for Development Steve Rosefeld said that donations to UC athletics hit over $65 million collectively for fiscal 22 and 23. That is nearly double the amount raised for fiscal 20 and 21. He also told the Associated Press that a fundraising initiative looking to collect $100 million by June of 24 hit its target 9 months early. In terms of more recent numbers, UC Athletics revenue hit over $118 million in the most recent fiscal reporting for 24-25. That is the first time UC Athletics saw over $100 million in revenue ever, according to reporting from Cincinnati Business Courier reporter, friend of the show, Steve Watkins. There's our chart for the banks, the impact that the Reds and the Bengals have. I took the time to have Reds be in red and Bengals in orange for easy color coding. When it comes to Xavier basketball, there was big news from early May. Multiple reports that X spent between $5 and $6 million last year for name, image, and likeness payments. To be clear, this is all outside reporting, as Xavier is a private institution, but from several claims going back a few months, Musketeer money is in a better spot this year than it was last year. That's a quote from Coach Richard Pitino. He gave that to Steve Watkins just in the spring, helping us, and when I say us, I really mean me, sort through some more recent college sports developments and the money involved in it, is the host of the Rebound Rundown here on The Crown, Paul Fritchner. Paul, thank you for joining us on this Friday.
Jack, I am fired up to be on this show today, brother. How are we?
We're doing great.
Oh, let's go. Let's talk hoops, brother.
Let's talk some hoops. Let's start off with the court ruling that came down that you had a front seat for.
That's right. Paulie plaintiffs got up close and personal down there at the Hamilton County Courthouse last Wednesday.
15 college athletes had filed suit. Go on. You know the story.
Yeah, 15 college athletes. Yeah, not to hijack the segment here. If I didn't want to, if you have something to tee up, that's fine. I'll let you be a professional.
The camera cut to you. So.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there were 15 athletes originally on the suit. They added 10 more later. I believe it was 25. If I'm adding 15 and 10 correctly, that's 25 athletes, part of this suit, that now are eligible, at least right now, to play college basketball this upcoming season. The suit was filed, as I said, right here in the state of Ohio. It was decided down the street at the Hamilton County Courthouse. And it's a big deal for these athletes in particular because they're looking to be grandfathered into what's called the 5-and-5 rule, basically getting one more year of college eligibility. I could do 3 hours on this. In 2 seconds, it just means that they get to play one more year. But the important thing to remember, if you saw all of the press about this yesterday, is that these players still have hoops that they're going to have to jump through. Maybe not specifically the players, but legally, there is a lot that still needs to be decided before opening night of the season. It's just, 3 months away, that needs to happen to allow these players to be able to play. But there's at least a chance now, because of this yesterday, that they are going to be able to play this season.
Yeah, this was just an injunction from the judge. The case itself still has yet to be decided. And what is the impact on money here? Schools are going out and raising money to have name, image, and likeness funds so they can have a good roster, so they can be competitive. What does that, mean, that money specifically for these players part of the suit?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the big thing to remember, too, when you're looking at this in general is just you talk about getting sent to a trial or something that's just a preliminary injunction. A lot of times what happens is they just set the trial date for the week after the season's over, and then nobody cares about it anyway, because at that point it's a moot point. But yes, a lot of these teams, depending on how you structured it, it sounds like Xavier was pretty prepared for the possibility that they get a player back. Cincinnati has roster spots available for potentially 2 players that they could add, MJ Collins and Colby King, who played for new head coach Jared Calhoun at Utah State. They would follow him here. MJ more certain that he would play at Cincinnati than Colby King. I don't think that's a done deal yet. But taking a step back and just looking at it, you have to prepare. Not only do you need roster spots, you also need the NIL funds to be able to pay these guys. And if you're Xavier, you had Richard Pitino get up on the stand last week and say that Xavier spent a little over $14 million in NIL on this roster. You're going to have to go out and get another million or whatever you're going to pay Philip Borovichinen to play on the team if it ends up happening. But then there are so many other factors that you have to consider here, Jack, legally, where let's say this happens and a player signs a contract but then 3 weeks later, an appeal is heard and the players all of a sudden can't play. Are you contractually obligated to having to give them the money that they signed a contract for?
Where does that money go? Because it's not being used to their names and images and likenesses aren't being used to promote the team if this person's not on the roster.
That's correct, Jack. And when you get to a point now where yesterday, when this ruling came out, I spent probably 2 or 3 straight hours on the phone with coaches and agents and compliance departments and lawyers from all over the country. And the collective answer that I got from pretty much everybody was, I have no idea.
Cool.
Yes. Whole lot of certainty going on right now in college athletics.
Well, there was certainly a lengthy statement that the NCAA posted in response to the injunction. The NCAA not thrilled with that decision. The court's decision today is wrong, and we will immediately seek all avenues for reversal, including a stay of the court's order pending appeal. The court disregarded over a century of precedent and substituted its own judgment. These are the words of the NCAA responding to that injunction decision. So you're dialed in. Do you see this NIL change college basketball here? What do you think is the legitimacy of this lawsuit? How real is this concern?
Well, I think the big thing to keep in mind is that the NCAA continues to lose these cases. Yeah. It's just time after time. The NCAA cannot win in court. So there's precedent there that they just keep losing.
Is that because judges and juries tend to be a little more sympathetic toward these players?
Well, especially in this case, the argument was, hey, look, all of the waivers and rules and things that you're trying to apply, it's so arbitrary from the NCAA's perspective. Everything you're trying to do, NCAA, it's all arbitrary. You let foreign players play professionally, and then they come over here. You give some guys a waiver. And you know, the foreign players coming over, they don't have the same higher education structure with athletics that the United States has. So a player that's played professionally for a couple of years in Europe, now having to come over to the United States, it might just be like somebody's playing a couple of years in college basketball and then transferring to a different school, skill-wise.
Yeah.
But people just see professional from Serbia or from wherever, and they think, oh, professional player. Well, it's all, there's levels to this game, Jack, and so that's what you have to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, in general, I think what I have gathered most importantly from this in the last 24 hours is that the NCAA, as you said in that statement, is fired up about this ruling. Yeah. They are just seething that this went through, more so than some of the other rulings recently that they've lost on. This one kind of feels like a flag in the sand moment for them.
They're going to fight this.
They are going to fight this tooth and nail as hard as they can. And that's why I say, yeah, you saw MJ Collins from Utah State post a committed graphic to Cincinnati yesterday as soon as this came out. But just because they commit and just because they say they're going to play, or maybe they even start practicing, doesn't mean you're going to see them on opening night. There is still a lot that has to be sorted out with all of this.
Yeah, and a lot of money on the line that are coming from donors and who knows who else that is going to need to go somewhere. One other thing, while we still got a couple of minutes left, also some big news that you've been at the forefront of this week. The announcement at the Lindner Family Tennis Center is going to be the home of the CareSource Invitational Ohio this October. That is going to be college basketball at that tennis center between UC, UD, OSU, and X. This is a really big deal too.
Well, in the 100 seconds that we have left in this segment, I'm not going to break down these games. You can catch that on the Rebound Rundown. What I will do is talk about the business aspects, since this is the working lunch. The biggest priority for the tennis tournament right now, outside of putting on a phenomenal tennis event, and it was just named the Masters 1000 event of the year. Quite literally the best non-major in the world is the Cincinnati Open.
Yeah.
They are putting a massive priority up there at the Lindner Family Tennis Center of creating events year-round, making this a facility. You can go up there right now and have dinner at their restaurant. You can play, pickleball, padel, tennis, whatever it is. The Grizzly, the golf course across the street, they moved their pro shop inside the tennis facility. They are placing a huge emphasis on making sure that this facility is open to the public as much as possible 365 days a year. So bringing an event like this, I have been told that this is hopefully the first of many to come. They want to build this out. They want this to be successful so that there's traction for years to come down the line. And I did that in 60 seconds, not even 100.
You know what? And I think we're still doing okay time-wise. I appreciate you keeping an eye on the clock. CareSource has sponsored these invitationals elsewhere. This is to raise money specifically for mental health. What did I have the dollar amount? It's raised over $500,000 on this thing so far, and they have them in other locations.
They do, and it's a particularly special cause or important cause, I think is probably the better way to put it, for Dayton head coach Anthony Grant. This is his foundation, something that he prioritizes because he lost his daughter a few years ago. And so this is something that he has prioritized in making sure that CareSource is involved with these exhibitions, that there is a component to raising awareness for mental health. And so, yes, they have sponsored. In fact, when Xavier and Dayton played each other in a preseason exhibition a couple of seasons ago at UD Arena, CareSource was the sponsor. Cincinnati playing Arkansas down in Arkansas, CareSource was the sponsor. So they've been very involved. And I will say that if this event gets rained out, it'll just move to UD Arena. So it'll happen that night regardless.
Which is one of the risks that you run when you're at an outdoor tennis center that you've spent $260 million to convert into a year-round facility. This was a major thing that happened at the Lindner Tennis Center, finished it up last year. Cincinnati Open Sporting Club, open year-round, doubled the size of the campus, and now you're doing events like this, really trying to play up the idea that this is an everybody sort of place.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to bring the community of Mason, of Warren County, and the fans of tennis from all over the world, and Cincinnati, everything.
Or pickleball or padel.
Anywhere, anything. They want to make that place a hub for all of it. And what a better way, to get things started. It's one of the things that makes college basketball special to me. I know it's not happening in the regular season. Everybody wants the games to count. I get it. But we weren't getting these games at all anyway, so why not do it in an exhibition format outside, something different? We've seen college basketball on an aircraft carrier, in a hotel ballroom. All these places played outside on a tennis court. It's awesome.
Right on. Paul Fritchner, everybody. The Rebound Rundown is his show. How's it going? What you got any? You doing okay?
Peachy, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great day yesterday between the news of the Cincinnati Open and then the court news later in the day. I'll tell you what, trying to decipher all that legalese and trying to figure out what in the world is going on here, that was just the first step of what I tried to figure out yesterday.
But
we got there.
You got there.
It was teamwork.
You're persistent.
That's right.
And we appreciate that. Paul Fritchner with the Rebound Rundown. Check out that show recapping everything you need to know for college sports. Basketball season's coming. Keeping a finger on that pulse. We are going to take a break. But we got more Working Lunch when we come back. It's Friday. That means movies come out this weekend. We'll give you a look at what's big, what's coming, and how much money they're looking to make. That's coming up after the break. You're watching the Working Lunch on the Crown. Stick around.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Nick had with the fan favorite to put it away. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Oh, what a catch. Cincinnati can't score. What a scores and the Reds win.
Cincinnati sports fans are the best. Loyal, passionate, second to none. This city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Erpine, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. We break down the biggest moments and set the agenda for the city. Marissa Contepelli and Jacob Tissett join me to bring the insight and energy you need to start your day. The conversation starts with First Word. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more. You can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the West Side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
I'm Paul Fritchner. I'm a 2019 graduate of Xavier University, and I've been covering college basketball for 10 years here in the Cincinnati area. I'm the host of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast during the season and a weekly show in the off-season covering everything you need to know about your favorite team. And if you're not a fan of a team here in Cincinnati, I have you covered from the national perspective as well. Follow it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. You made it through the week. Congratulations. This is Friday, and that means we are talking about movies that are in theaters this weekend. Kicking things off, Disney's been raking in the dough since Toy Story 5 debuted nearly a month ago. Over 800 million worldwide so far, and that's just box office. Obviously, something like Toy Story 5 has a ton of merch associated with it, too. And Disney is back at it again with the white vans this weekend. Take a look.
I am a girl who loves my island, and the girl who loves the sea. It calls me. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know how far I'll go. I am Moana.
The original animated Moana came out less than 10 years ago. And it was an instant classic, though it got a ton of traction once it hit Disney+. No one writes a better I Want song in musicals than Lin-Manuel Miranda does. And now Disney is giving it the live-action remake treatment. 6-year-olds who saw the original are just teenagers now. Audiences also got an animated Moana sequel less than 2 years ago. Now, one of the big marketing elements of these Disney live-action remakes is the nostalgia factor. That doesn't appear to be as strong for this one. Deadline says tracking shows a $75 million opening weekend in North America, but so far, advanced ticket sales are pointing closer to $60 million opening. The more fun, more adult theatrical release this weekend is The Invite. We have barely enough time. Hit that video.
Bye.
Two.
Hey, Angela. Hi. Me too.
Yes. Joe, you remember Peanut Hog? This is still a good time. Yes, yeah.
Are you sure we are not interrupting something?
No, it's great. It's good. If it's good for you,
Yes.
it's great for us.
Okay.
Yeah, we love. Yep.
It took you a while to come to the door,
Da igual.
and it sounded like you were arguing.
No filter.
No, I just want to be honest. We were at the door before we rang, and we could hear you were fighting.
Oh, we were talking. We were fighting.
We were fighting, yeah.
Bit of a contentious environment in here, so I understand if that's repellent to you. No hard feelings, you know what I mean? Completely understand, you know?
We love a contentious environment. We love it.
Okay.
Well,
Really, it's fine.
you hit the jackpot then, my friend. You're in for a treat.
That is Olivia Wilde directed that film. Really looking forward to seeing that this weekend. I'm a sucker for stories about awkward couple interactions. The Invite this weekend. That's our show. Have a nice weekend. Have a nice weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Have a nice one and enjoy it. We'll be back on Monday at noon with more Working Lunch. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks to my guests, Paul Fritchner and former Ohio House Majority Leader Bill Seitz. We're out.